This is Kite Cutter TV with another presentation. We gotta talk about this. Okay guys, someone asked me yesterday if the border wall is still being built, so I decided to do a video on it. The answer is yes, the border wall continues being built during this time. Also on my videos yesterday, everybody was letting me know that Joe Biden technically is not the president and he did not win the election. I agree that the election is being contested and we'll see how this turns out. Someone reminded me that in 2000, Al Gore was declared the victor over George Bush for just over a month, but actually didn't end up being put into office. I remember this happening, but I was in my early 20s and didn't have the slightest clue about politics at the time. So Trump does have some work to do, but it's not completely over yet. Back to the border wall. A rancher is having the wall built on his property and claims that the Border Patrol has arrested 500,000 people in the last 30 years on his property alone. Hard to believe, but covering this issue on a daily basis makes it more believable and shows that this border crisis is old news but isn't going away. And if Biden does actually get put into office, will get a lot worse. Check this out.
They started in April, and okay, so we'll be involved 9 months with them, then take them a month to fix everything, and off you go.
It's a campaign promise from President Trump, being built in longtime rancher John Ladd's backyard. And it's not the first time something like this has been built to separate his Bisbee ranch from Naco, Mexico. It's round 3 of border construction. Before 1990, it was just barbed wire fence, similar to this one.
Our ranch has had a steel barrier since 2007. It started out was 10 feet tall, then it went to 13 feet tall, then it went to 18 feet tall, now it's going to 30 feet.
And it stretches across 8 miles of his 16,000-acre ranch. He says he was asked before bulldozers and construction crews began their work.
Every time we've done something, it's slowed the number of people coming across.
Ladd says Border Patrol arrests about 40 people on his ranch weekly, whether it's for crossing into the United States or smuggling drugs.
Border Patrol's caught 500,000 people on our ranch in the last 30 years.
He adds in that time span, there's been about 100 instances of people driving truckloads of drugs through his ranch, cutting through fencing and leaving his cattle in distress. He says it'll also keep his cattle in the country.
The benefit is now we have an actual substantial barrier, so my cattle can't get into Mexico and the Mexican cattle can't get on me.
He says although he's seen activity drop in his ranch over the last 4 years, it'll always be present.
The reality, we're not going to stop 100%. That's just the remoteness of the border. But if there's only 10% of the illegal intrusions, that's a huge number to benefit illegal activity in America.
Sierra Encinas, Kick at Night on your side.
With the Biden administration waiting in the wings, experts say we should expect a wave of changes in U.S. immigration policy.
Here's Channel 5's Santiago Caicedo with the predictions.
People at the migrant camp in Matamoros were cheering after the projected win of Joe Biden in this year's election.
Estamos alegres porque sabemos que Dios es perfecto y la victoria está cerca.
Off camera, this migrant saying he and other migrants were excited over the election results, saying God is perfect and victory for them is near. An immigration attorney we spoke with says that victory could mean a possible reversal of the migrant protection protocol within the first 100 days of the Biden administration.
So those policies can be changed, from one day to the next.
This also includes a reversal in executive orders President Trump made in ending new applications for Daca, TPS programs, and a ban keeping people from entering the U.S. from certain Muslim countries.
That's something that myself, along with a lot of other collaborators along the border, are working with the transition team to develop a very clear, detailed plan.
And according to one political expert, President-elect Joe Biden could find himself with several setbacks.
Anything that they would want to change in terms of changing legal status or anything like that still would require legislation.
He adds it will be more challenging for parents of DACA recipients to legalize their immigration status. Immigration attorneys say even with a mostly conservative Supreme Court, Biden could enact executive orders, but not unilaterally make changes to immigration law without Congress. In McAllen, Santiago Caicedo, Channel 5 News this morning.
This past Saturday, volunteers with Team Brownsville visiting the Matamoros migrant camp and say the people they spoke to are happy about Joe Biden becoming president-elect.
CBS 4's Iris Karami takes a look at what this could mean under a new administration.
So people were very excited about the fact that the announcement was made about President-elect Biden and Harris coming out, that the vote came out that way.
Lead of the nonprofit Team Brownsville, a nonprofit that provides basic necessities to migrants, says that although they celebrate, we still have time before we know outcomes.
Their hope was that the moment that there might have been a Biden win, that suddenly the gates were just going to open, that the border was going to open, and that they would be able to just pass freely across.
Rudnick says that COVID has deterred migrants from crossing and also closed the courts, leaving many asylum seekers without a set court date. Supervising Border Patrol agent Christian Alvarez says that the number of illegal crossings has stayed the same.
Last month's numbers maintained as previous numbers. We're averaging around 550 apprehensions in this sector per day.
Alvarez recalls the major influx we saw in 2014 and 2019 and says they will adapt to any forthcoming.
But Border Patrol, just like in times past, they adapted to those numbers and they were able to handle the influx of illegal entries into the sector.
Working for you in Brownsville, I'm Iris Karemi.
Well, now at 5, keeping the dream alive. DACA recipients around the country are banking on President-elect Joe Biden to pull through on his promise to secure a path to citizenship. NBC4's John Cochise County spoke to some of the immigrants hoping to hold Biden accountable.
We're waiting for this for years.
Maria Galvan speaking to us outside her home in Van Nuys this afternoon. 20 years she's been living in the U.S. without citizenship. We've met her at a number of rallies for immigration reform over the last decade. Today, she says she's out of the shadows in anticipation of what a Biden administration could mean for people like her.
We support him because we think that he's going to do the things that he said.
We owe them. We owe them.
President-elect Biden made the promise during the final debate in October.
Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country.
I think what's significant is that he's recognizing that it has to be a top political priority right out of the bat.
Raul Hinojosa is a professor at UCLA. He says Biden could have a hurdle with a split Congress.
They're going to have to create deals. They're going to have to reach across the aisle, especially if they don't have control of the Senate.
We got the vote out, and now we need him to do his part.
Zulema Barajas is herself a DACA recipient, one of 700,000 nationwide.
It feels like a sigh of relief now, but we definitely need to keep fighting for something more permanent.
But with the Democratic House and a Republican-run Senate, Hinojosa says those first 100 days for Biden could be some of the most contentious he'll face.
If it fails, I think at this point is that we are not able to break out of a deeply partisan rancor.
In Van Nuys, John Cochise County, NBC4 News.
There's a lot of excitement. We work with a lot of youth, so a lot of people were crying. And they're just like, right now they are quickly getting their paperwork in order. Their school records, medical records, just because as soon as it opens, they want to be able to submit and apply.
And that's how many dreamers reacted this week after learning the man who promises to reinstate DACA is projected to be our next president. Dreamers tell Brittany Thomason that actually gives him hope for their future. Brittany.
Hey, Yetta, DACA lets people brought to the U.S. illegally as children remain as legal residents. They're able to get a job, a driver's license, and are protected from deportation. In January, Joe Biden plans to make the program permanent. Video over the years shows rallies across the U.S. and Arizona fighting for DACA.
It just feels really weird because in the place that I call home, I'm not considered to be home. I'm not considered to be a stranger and a foreigner.
Jose Patino left Mexico, coming to the U.S. at 6 years old. He graduated from high school and college undocumented.
For me, it's like I grew up with my peers. I think this is my country. I pledge allegiance to the flag since I was in the first grade.
Patino's life changed when he became a DACA recipient.
DACA basically gives people who are undocumented, specifically youth, a sense that they belong in this country.
Reina Montoya can relate. She came to the U.S. at 13 to get away from violence in Mexico. At 21, she applied for DACA, changing her world.
I had been living without the opportunity to have a driver's license and constantly living in fear of not being able to to, just go to the store, go to the movies without having to worry that I was going to get deported.
She wants others to live without fear.
In order to apply for the DACA program, you have to turn 15. So what happened in 2017 when President Trump ended the DACA program, there were a lot of young people that were not 15, that they were coming of age to age in into the program that were left out.
Montoya hopes Biden keeps his promise and makes a path for those dreamers to apply for DACA like her. In Arizona, Reyna says there are about 7,000 dreamers who were too young to apply for DACA in 2017. In the newsroom, Brittany Thomason, Arizona's Family.
Of America is anxious for states to certify the votes in the presidential election, but perhaps no one is as anxious as dreamers.
CBS 4's Tylisa Hampton shows us how DACA recipients are happy to hear Joe Biden named president-elect, but are still cautious.
I feel very nervous because I want to hear the very good news.
DACA recipient Victor Hernandez remaining cautious after hearing Biden's plans to reinstate DACA, which shields deportation for about 600,000 people.
I'm very nervous because this is my only job that I have, and my business is mine. And if I sign on DACA, I can lose my business.
Losing his job would affect his family.
I feel very sad because my family depends on me and my job. I have my mom and my sister and my dad.
Wanting to be free.
Everyone is to live free with our family and work free.
Obstacles came in his way.
The Trump administration was unsuccessful in defeating DACA at the Supreme Court. So what did they do? They reduced the time that a person is allowed to have a work permit from 2 years to 1 year.
Immigration attorney Carlos Garcia says Republicans have been trying to move forward with their plan to end DACA.
The Republicans are anti-DACA, at least the ones that have filed suit against DACA. In fact, it's very personal because those suits to end or terminate DACA were filed here in South Texas.
He says the Dreamers have learned to be cautious through the years.
We're hoping that Joe Biden does keep his word. Obviously, as advocates, immigrant advocates, we're always going to hold people accountable, whether they're Republican or Democrats.
Garcia says that they will continue to be vigilant about the news in hopes that the plan to reinstate DACA will happen. Working for you, I'm Tylisa Hampton.
Well, lawyers looking for the parents of children separated at the U.S. border are still waiting for contact information. According to the ACLU, the federal government hasn't handed over those details for 100 families. A court filing last month showed lawyers have been unable to reach the parents of 545 children separated from them during the Trump administration's zero-tolerance immigration policy. Now, the ACLU is saying that number is actually 666 children who have not been reunited with parents. They are thought to be living in the United States with sponsors, but lawyers believe 2/3 of their parents have now been deported without them. A government watchdog report released last year after a federal court order reunification for many of the families estimates there could be thousands of additional separated families who have not been acknowledged.
A lot of us are tired, but it's because we labored with love.
Supporters of former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden continue to celebrate after he surpassed the magic number of 270 electoral votes to be projected as president-elect. But incumbent President Donald Trump is still ranting on social media about alleged electoral fraud. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and even his wife, Melania, have reportedly been trying to convince him to accept the results.
Outrageous.
This week, Trump's legal team will be formally filing more cases in court.
This is going to be eventually a big case because it will go beyond Pennsylvania.
Trump, who has not spoken in public since Thursday, is also planning to hold rallies to build support for his fight over the election, while Trump pursues long-shot bids to keep the presidency.
The United States of America, Joe Biden.
Biden is already preparing the details of his administration as he promised so in his victory speech on Saturday.
On Monday, I will name a group of leading scientists and experts as transition advisors to help take the Biden-Harris COVID plan and convert it into an action blueprint that will start on January the 20th, 2021.
That plan will be built on bedrock science.
Biden also committed to immediately undo Trump's actions that were clearly anti-immigrant. According to an immigration expert, this will have an immediate impact on Filipinos in the U.S.
I think there's going to be prosecutorial discretion, giving emphasis on family unity instead of family separation.
Philippine ambassador to the U.S. Jose Manuel Romualdez also believes a Biden-Harris leadership will benefit many Filipinos seeking American citizenship. But Romualdez advises Filipinos not to risk getting deported, as more than 350,000 Filipinos are currently facing deportation cases in the U.S. As Biden and Harris continue to work extremely hard to be ready for day one of their administration, Trump continues to refuse to accept defeat. Now the world awaits the cases he will file this week and to scrutinize the evidence if it's going to be enough to overturn a historic election. TJ Manotok, ABS-CBN News, San Francisco, California.
The city of Charleston now has a new piece of artwork displayed in the downtown area. It aims to celebrate the contributions immigrants have brought to the Mountain State. West Virginia Tonight reporter Mariah Davis gives us a look.
In downtown Charleston now hangs the Families Belong Together mural celebrating immigration. The piece was completed in collaboration with local artists, students, and other community members, and each tile carries a message of inclusiveness.
There are 192 tiles painted by so many people and students at UC, and you're seeing the beautiful mountains represented of the state of West Virginia, and then you're seeing the immigrants sitting together, talking to each other.
Immigrants' Right campaign coordinator Jackie Lozano admits she is an undocumented immigrant and has faced many challenges since coming to the U.S.
Can't get a license, I can't go to college, I can't afford to go to college, I don't receive FAFSA, any kind of government financial help I do not qualify for.
Members involved with the mural say they hope it sheds light on becoming a more welcoming society and supporting differences as one.
I hope people will get to appreciate and recognize the contribution that we do and not only tolerate immigrants, but accept them and celebrate their contribution to the state of West Virginia.
But when I see murals and things like this happening, it just really makes me feel included and it makes me feel safe in the area that I live in.
That was Mariah Davis reporting. The mural is located at 904 Quarrier Street, which is the location of the Old Blossom Dairy Restaurant.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, God bless. Peace.